Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mason Cox Show. Now today we have an amazing guest. He's got plenty of backdrop. He's got a design and art at the Gordon Institute of TAFE. That is probably not what he's known for, but I'll start that off the top. In 2005, he was searched for Funny Bone winner. 2007 Melbourne International Comedy Festival Best Newcomer. He appeared on Rove, which I feel like everyone does nowadays. He does The Project. He's in TV, radio, comedy, and you probably recognize his voice as the HBF Quokka at the moment. He is the great man, Dave Thornton. I want to say a massive thank you for coming on, mate.
Mason, it's good to be here. And I just realised the dog's breakfast of a career that I have lined up this whole way through. Even as you went there, I went, yeah, I did all of those things and somehow feel really disappointed.
I like to give people a bit of an idea of something you've done different.
Yeah, thanks,
mate. Everyone knows you're the comedic genius. Everyone knows you love your stand-up and you're great at impersonations and everything else. But I like to really let people know and give people a bit of an idea with the design and art at the Gordon Institute of TAFE.
I know, mate. Well, for people that listen overseas, because no doubt you've got an American listenership, TAFE is like Harvard. So
exactly.
It's not easy to get into. No, that was $400 for a diploma, I think, a certificate for an arts design. Because
$400. How long did it take you to finish?
Wrong. 2 years.
2 years. $400 for 2 years of education.
But there was a little comeuppance because a degree takes 3 years. And I remember I got my job as a graphic designer and then I had an underling who started tertiary education at the same time I did, but took 3 years. And so I was their senior after finishing 2 years.
After 2 years of school.
Like, suck it.
Suck it, bro.
And you've still got to pay your HECS back. What a loser.
Idiot. I only paid $400 for this.
Yeah.
We'll jump right into it, man. I want to talk to you about a lot of different stuff. Obviously, comedy is going to be a big part of this, but I want to talk to you about travel. You're a man that's traveled the world, and I love a bit of travel.
I know.
I know you've done a little bit of a Euromission was what it was called, I believe, the little skit you had.
That was the first solo show that I ever had, Mason.
Yes.
Stand-up comedy festival show in 2007. And I mean, yes, I'm a citizen of the world, if you must call it that.
Yes.
I still obviously haven't learnt a lot because I still jumped into the back of a stranger's van for this podcast.
White unmarked van. Love that.
Yeah, I feel like as we're filming this right now, this footage could be on the news right now. Last scene, jumping into a white van. Because I don't know if your listeners know, this is all recorded from a van. And it is incredibly convenient. You've turned up. You've possibly got a parking fine, but you've turned up here. And yeah, I love this setup. This is amazing. I did see you got Eddie Maguire on.
Yeah,
me
Eddie
too.
didn't want to get in the bus though. Eddie didn't want to. He put us to the MCG in his box. It was a bit of a King Dick kind of thing. He was like, "Oh mate, I've got something better. I'll put it in a box at the MCG overlooking the massive ground that is."
Yeah.
So it was a pretty cool experience. I'm not gonna lie.
So did you parallel park at the G? Is that what happened?
Actually, he gave us private parking underneath. I'm not gonna lie.
Did he?
Yes.
That's sick.
Man's got a few little friends there, I think, in the sporting world.
Well, it's good to know you got these media titans on. That's great to know.
Exactly.
It's Eddie, Rupert Murdoch, Dave Thornton. They're the big three. What do you want to know, mate?
What else do you need to have? But we're getting into travel, man. So you've been to Europe, I'm assuming, is kind of one of the places. I feel like a lot of Australians love to go to Europe. It's either Europe or America. The two furthest places probably possible. Now you've been to Europe and you say you've gone with a bunch of mates. So this is pre-marriage, pre-kids, and everything else. I want to ask
Simpler
you.
times, mate.
It really was. I'm sure it was, mate. I've done it, yet I still have not married or have kids or anything, but some of the best stories come out of travel. And I feel like you really find yourself in travel, mate. I want to ask you, what is some of your favorite moments? Give me maybe like one of the favorite places you've been to or one of the favorite things you've done.
Oh, good question. Admittedly, I didn't get drafted into a foreign sport league like you seem to have worked out.
I don't know how.
You know, I was explaining your story before I bore you with all my travel stories. I was explaining to my partner, and she said, "Who's coming around to park out the front?" And
are they coming inside the house? Do I need to clean up?
Yeah. And I said, "I'm Mason Cox," and then I explained your story, and no doubt people who listen to this know your whole story.
Yeah.
Of you played 4 years at Oklahoma State. It was
Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Oklahoma
Shout
State
out.
basketball.
Go Pokes.
That's it. Oh, because you were teammates with what's his name for the Boston Celtics?
Smart.
Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart.
And
then you come over here. You said you get drafted, you get poached, you're playing a foreign sport, but you just work hard to get here. And it's amazing that in taking advantage of situations is a talent in itself. You know, to say like, okay, there's an opening there, I'm going to go for it, and you've worked extremely hard to get in your position. But you are like the thinking man's Forrest Gump. Like everything's happened to you. You just landed in the middle of it all. I mean, like, yeah, sick, Collingwood.
Sick,
Okay,
cool.
this works.
What's wrong with it? Keep running. Keep running. Just keep running.
Like I said, this is not me imposing on you that you've got, you're slow off the mark. I'm just saying that.
I'm very slow off the mark.
No, don't be like that. We've hung out a bit. But I'm saying, it's so cool that all these experiences have happened to you and you were like, okay, let's just keep going with this.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Can I ask this? What was your wife's impression? She was like, what the F do you mean he's just moved over to Australia to play a sport he's never heard of in a place he's never been?
I'm not going to lie. It's a very hard elevator pitch. It's hard to get your story into 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Like Mason Cox, he plays for Collingwood. She's like, oh, that's amazing. I said, he's an American. What? Oh, so he just liked AFL? He didn't know what it was. And then he comes across here and she was as bewildered as you would expect that situation to be.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find a great way to describe it. I still don't know. Even to Americans, they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I played soccer and rugby and basketball and into one sport, and then there's no pads, and you can essentially just do whatever the hell you want.
Like,
That's
cool.
the best way to do it. I don't know. But
yeah, and you're the rarest Pokemon. You know that, don't you?
What is the rarest Pokemon?
Mate.
Am I the Mewtwo of Pokemon or something like that? I feel like that's really bringing it back, Mewtwo.
Yeah, you're like a 6'10" American who plays AFL. That's not...
Doesn't really make sense.
There's not any other people sitting in that Venn diagram.
Look,
But,
I'm not here to brag, but I did make the AA team this year. The All-American team.
Oh, great.
I was the best player. I was coach. I was full back even.
Really?
You wouldn't believe that.
That is incredible.
It's pretty amazing. Even head coach. It's just every year, 8 years running, AA team.
I understand everyone's at Crown Casino there for the Brownlow medal count.
I'm sitting at the craps table just throwing. You don't really make much of the AA team, but you have a damn good night, I'll tell you that.
Good on you, mate. That's great.
100%, man. Well, we'll go back to the travel. We've kind of got off track here. I love it. But what's your favorite place you've ever been to in the world? We'll start with that.
See, that's hard to pick because, I went to Europe. Well, see, my father was English, my mother's Dutch, so I wanted to see, obviously, where they came from. And then, and because I've got an English passport, so that's what brought me to Europe initially. But since I've been pretty lucky with stand-up and just with backpacking, I've been South America, Sri Lanka, I've been South Africa, Europe, obviously, America, Canada. So, I mean, each has their own little... I know I'm acting like I'm being diplomatic right now, but there's always something cool about a place when you go to visit it.
Yeah.
And... I mean, one thing that was amazing, I remember going to South America and I did the Patagonia Trail.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Did you really do the Patagonia Trail?
Yeah, it was incredible.
Towards the Pioneer.
I'm assuming named after all the cool jumpers that all the hipsters wear around Brunswick.
The jumpers came first and then the mountain range is essentially what happened next.
That's what I assume.
Did you do the W track?
Yeah, I did the W track.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
I've never met anyone else that's done the W track.
Oh, you've done it?
I did it, yeah. I did it like 5 years ago.
How funny is it because llamas are going everywhere and alpacas?
Everywhere. Did you see any? Because there's pumas out there. And we saw a condor. Condor's like the biggest bird in the world, I think, wingspan wise. Just to let everyone know out there. But we were really on puma watch. Didn't see any pumas though.
No, I did see a puma. I remember.
Did you?
Yeah.
How do you say it again? Can you say it?
Well, I said puma.
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 It sounds like you've acquired a brain injury.
Puma. There's like an H in there or something.
To be honest. If you've got a concussion test, never ask him to say Puma because you'll get dragged off for 2 weeks.
Right off. Okay, you're done.
Oh, so you did I stayed in the because there's huts or you can bring a tent.
Oh, you did the classy thing.
Yeah, man. I did the huts. What, did you bring a tent?
We had a 4-person tent. There's 3 of us over 6'4" in it. My feet were hanging out the first night. It snowed about a whole foot, and I woke up in the middle of the night to wet feet, opened up the zip, just white Christmas everywhere. It was the worst start to anything. Everything's drenched.
Why would you do that?
Well, I'm not a person that organizes things, man. I just go into it.
When was
this is 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was literally the day, right? It was like during the off season around October, and we had gone to this place, and my friend's very organized. He was like, no, we need to figure out what day we need to do this, how long it's going to take to hike this, if the terrain's tough or what we need to wear. And I kind of just rocked up and I was like, nah, we'll just go. We'll figure it out. It'll be 5 days in the wilderness. We'll be fine. And about the first 2 hours, I realized I was vastly wrong. I was extremely wrong. I would have died within a day.
Mason, you seem like such a lovely guy, but I would fucking hate you on that track.
100%.
Because I've realised I am that guy. If I'm left to my own devices, I would prefer someone else to organise it, but I am the organiser because I want to mitigate any risk.
Yeah.
And you would be the mate that I'm like, no, you're not borrowing my socks. Your feet will freeze off. And then you have to drag those stumps along the track and hopefully...
The whole way.
Yeah, and you will get eaten by a puma. And I really liked it, but I said to my partner, because we went pre-kids.
Yeah.
Mind you, in saying that,
Did you go with your partner?
I was on the yeah, and we're still together.
Wow, that's awesome.
Going on the 5-day track, there was a person that had a toddler in those baby Bjorns.
Oh, wow.
Was doing the 5-day track with a kid strapped to them, and I'm like, dude.
Jeez Louise, that's a solid effort.
Well,
for everyone out there, it's
borderline child
like,
abuse.
It's like 10 to 15 Ks of walking every day, and you're going like into a mountain range and then back down. Some of the most beautiful stuff in the world, like proper background of a desktop to describe this thing. But it is tough. It's not like casual stroll.
No, it's not. And I mean, we went in their summer, which is the same as our summer, but it's just Southern Hemisphere summer. And I mean, when you go up to the top of the mountains, it's still 0 degrees Celsius.
Freezing.
It's freezing. So it's not easy to trek around there. And I thought 5 days with a kid strapped to you is a bit much for that child.
Hey, credit to the missus for going with you though. That's a pretty tough, grueling hike.
Mate, it is. Nikki's awesome, but she is way better equipped to do this stuff than I am.
Is she the outdoorsy one?
She's the outdoorsy one. She's also, like, we did a 10K.
Is she your sister by chance?
To be honest, after I'm finding out how useless you are, I don't need you as a brother-in-law.
It's not a great first impression.
If you're going to turn up to every barbecue and be like, I didn't bring anything, I didn't organise anything, I'll be like, God damn it. I wish your feet had frozen off back in Patagonia. I don't need this. But we did a 10K run at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And it was for the good people at Beyond Blue, do a little bit of work with them. And of course, I needed the carrot at the end of all the lockdowns that Melbourne had to go, right, I'll get myself in shape. 10K run, she barely trained. I did a bit of training. At 5Ks, my calf went and I just strolled off as everyone went, wasn't that the guy who was promoting this whole race and now he's just carked it? And I went, thanks for that. And
did you get in a car and like drive to the end and then walk across or something?
Mate, I just wanted to find a hole and fall into it. But then... So I walked to the finish line to think, I'll be encouraging for Nikki whenever she crosses. And I'm looking at the finish line. I'm like, she should be over soon. And then she just strolls up next to me and I said, what are you doing? And she's like, I finished. I finished a couple of minutes ago. And I was like, what did you run 10Ks in? And she's like, 42 minutes. And I was like, mate, you're running 4.5 minute Ks for 20 seconds. And she's like, did I? So she's a beast.
Just casual.
She's a beast. So
that is unreal.
I was the dead weight, mate, in Patagonia. I was the one that was like, just leave me here. Just like, you can make it. You can make it. But that was incredible because that's also, Patagonia is the southernmost tip just about of South America.
Yeah,
so it's not what you think about with South America. It's not like you think, it's like Carnival. You're like, no, this is like, further down than Tasmania. This is close to Antarctica.
Yeah.
So it's cold, but then there's glaciers everywhere and it's glacial water.
Yeah.
Do you remember how clear the water was?
Oh, you can drink it off the side of the mountain. I've never really done that. You get one of those bottles, you just literally, any water that's coming out of the side of the mountain, you just can drink straight from it.
Yeah, like there were streams and we would just jump in them. We were sullying that water.
I'm hoping I didn't get some of the backwash of you before it. Oh, no.
5 days of grit, grime, and schmegma from
That's what you want. One of my best parts of that is like at the very end, you catch the boat back across the lake, right? I want to say, if you've done the same thing, there's a little casual like store there, right? Now, I don't know what y'all call them here. I think we call them stubby holders. I'm not sure which. Is that what you call them? Yeah, we call them koozies. Koozies is what you call them. Yeah. And my brother, who's been hiking for 5 days, disgusting, right? Like we're sweated through everything. We're just absolutely drenched in sweat. And he's like sitting there, we're like, there's a Patagonian beer. And we bought 3 Patagonian beers. And we're going to cheers beers to the Patagonian Alps. And then I come to the realization, we bring these beers out. My brother whips out 3 koozies out of his back pocket and he goes, I've been hiking these for 5 days waiting for this moment. He chucks them on there and we skull a beer in the middle of the Patagonian Alps. One of the best experiences I've ever done.
But that's great. But your beer holder then was soaked in his ass crack sweat.
It's glass protection.
Well, that's a tang that you just had to throw down. I think at
that point we're happy to have anything. We're eating like rice and beans, I think, for about 5 days straight.
Yeah, you're delusional.
We're very delusional, but
you don't know what's happening.
Yeah, we made it onto the glacier. We'll have to put out a photo there to everyone to understand how beautiful it is. But it is one of the most amazing places in the world.
It really is. But I mean, that's different travel. When I was traveling with Nikki, because she's traveled a lot as well, so we were pretty good together traveling. There was only a few blowouts, which is to be expected when you've got 6 weeks away together, which is always something that threw me off as well when I bumped into Americans, because we do the trek and it takes 5 days, but that was part of our 6 weeks over in South America.
Yeah.
And I talk to Americans and they're like, no, I got 2 weeks off. And
Yeah.
it took me 4 days to fly down here. I do the trek and then I head back to New York and live in my cramped apartment and work in a law firm for nothing to hope that I'll get a promotion one day. And I was like, this is the worst set. Like it broke their minds that we were off for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
They're like, what, did you just quit your job? You're like, nah. You just tell them I'll be back in a bit and then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I was always heartbroken that Americans only get 2 weeks off.
Only 2 weeks. Well, my brother and I, we had to do it in 4 days. Usually it takes 5 days to trek. We had to do it in 4 because my brother would go back to work. It's just the way it is in the U.S. I don't know, 2 weeks, and then like depending on how long you work, you can work there for longer, and you can get more more time off if the longer you work for a company. But like everyone starts 2 weeks, and that's just normalized. Like I tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, I get like 2 months off a year, and they're like, mate, what? Like, is there any other other things I can do?
But you become a footballer. You're only working for half of the year now, so
yeah, that's essentially it. I mean, we got off season. Don't get me wrong. We got a few little bye weeks here and there, but it's not a bad man. It's part of the whole. I guess sell for me to come over here is to have 2 weeks off of vacation to be able to travel anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think Australians like to travel because most of us, other than the first Australians, we're all immigrants. So you've got some lineage or reason to go overseas and check stuff out and have a look at things. But I remember when I was backpacking though through Europe, like it's a different travel. You're 22 years old, 23 years old.
Prime time to be summer in Europe.
Sure, but you're also skint, so you're just a grub because you're just trying to save money every which way.
True.
And I remember a friend and I, we hired a car in France, so we went all through the French south coast.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant, it's summer, it's wonderful, but of course we're just sleeping wherever we can.
Yeah.
Because
Been there. Hostels for $10 and
yeah, all that. But even
all that
then,
jazz.
sometimes you're like, I don't have the euros for this, so maybe I'll just sleep in a gutter somewhere. And in Europe, they're always much more laissez-faire about that. They're like, yeah, someone's just sleeping in a gutter. That's fine. And I remember we got into the coastal village and it was late at night. And my mate says, let's just park in this car park and we'll just sleep in the car. It'll be fine. I'm like, yeah, sick. So we put the seats back and then it was real early in the morning as sun's just breaking. There's a French police officer knocking on our window and we're like, bonsoir. And that's about the extent of my French.
oh no.
And he's screaming at us in French and we're like, I don't know what's going on. So we get out, but we're just in our underwear because we just, you get into your sleeping bag and you're out. And he's screaming at us and we're like, I don't know what's going on, mate. Like we're just at a car park.
Yeah.
And of course you're laying the Australian accent on thick. So he might know English, but he does know, like
not from here.
Yeah, not from like the seagulls from Finding Nemo. Mate. And then he's screaming at us. And I do remember someone else came across that knew a little bit of English and was trying to be the go-between. But then we realised what happened. It was a car park, sure, but it was a car park to a kindergarten.
Oh no.
So we're next to preschool. And then two men who were sleeping in their car that was fogged up by this stage. So he didn't know what was happening inside the car.
Jocks.
Just get out in their underwear. And they're like, what's going on? And they're like, I know what's going on, you creeps. You need to be at least 300 yards away from any children.
Safe to say you can't go back to France.
Well, he was like, I think once we puzzled it together, he was just like, just go. I'm not even angry. I'm just disappointed. What's wrong with you people? You're like, oh, well, we saved €5. So, I mean, we're sex offenders on a French registry, but still, we saved some money. It's gross.
Oh, I love it.
That's the fun of travel, man.
Oh, it's seriously sometimes every year, because I went whenever I was 23, I want to say, and I was broke. I had no money, and I slept in train stations, like everything. No, and the thing is, no one bats an eye. Everyone's like, oh, geez, another nomad traveler just rolling around, sleeping wherever he wants, piece of shit.
You know, this is also a story because I bumped into some old friends. I was doing a gig in Sydney last week, and some old friends came to the show when we met overseas. Yeah. So we were just talking about all this, and we're all now in our 40s. We got kids. It was getting to 10 o'clock. I'm like, we all got to go home. We're going to get up early in the morning. And so we're telling all these old stories. And this one, I mean, this proves how much of a grub you are when you travel. Yeah. When I had a girlfriend and she was Norwegian, and so we met for a little bit, but then I went traveling and then she's like, do you want to stay in Oslo? And I was like, for free? Absolutely.
100%.
And then you get their version of Jetstar, Ryanair flight.
Yes, Ryanair. Yes, been on a few of those.
You know what never lands on a normal airstrip? It lands at some ex-military airstrip that's in a different country.
You take a bus.
Yeah, you're like, hey, I flew here, but I'm still 200 kilometers away from my destination. Can someone come pick me up? So she comes and picks me up, and all the Norwegian countries are really expensive, which I didn't realize.
Yeah,
when you're backpacking,
all the Scandinavians are very expensive countries. Yeah,
totally, because they've just got good infrastructure.
Yeah, because they're decent places to live.
Yeah, and everyone's hot. You're like, okay, I'll pay more for this.
So true.
Like the men, the women, everyone's hot.
You feel like an idiot going there,
mate.
You know you're bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, I remember standing at train stations, and I was waiting for her to come out of a train station, and every person was tall and blonde and gorgeous, and I'm like, I'll I'll take any.
I'll leave. I'll just stay here.
Whatever. What you think is a 3 to me is an 11. I'll take that. I don't care.
The only chance you got is the Aussie accent. You just slather that thing on as hard as you can.
Yeah, there you go. I used to be a sex offender in France. What's going on? And so we're there, and I wasn't working. She's working, and it's one of those weird things where when you travel and you meet people traveling, you don't have work on, and you don't ask what you do for a living. You're just hanging out, and it's blissful. But then sometimes when you come back to reality, you go, "Oh, is this working?" Because you met that person when they were free and easy. You didn't meet them in their natural habitat.
Stressful day to day. Yeah.
And so we get there, and I realize I'm staying at her parents' house. She still lives with her parents because, like I said, we're only 23, 24, whatever. She's just come back from travel. She needs to save money. So I'm like, "Oh, I'm staying with your whole family." Okay. But again, I'm a backpacker. I'm like, "Oh, it is free." And then so I had nothing to do during the day. I'm just hanging out like a slob, eating their food because I was skint. And I can't believe I'm telling this story. She's going to work and whatever, and I'd meet her after work. We'd kind of hang out. And then I remember one night she comes
So you're at the house with the whole family while she's at work.
Just being a parasite. Like, they must have just thought I was a sponsor child.
Make-A-Wish kid.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is my last wish, to eat you out of house and home. And so I'm a 6'2" locust that's in their house. But then she came home from work early. So we're sitting on the couch. I'm being bored all day, watching TV. One thing led to another. And what do you know? But then I can't believe I'm telling this story.
I'll tell one embarrassing story after this.
Her mum came home, but of course you don't knock if it's your own house.
Yeah, been there.
So she comes in and you're like, "Oh no." And there's no getting out of it. But and her mum just walks straight past us through the lounge room to her own bedroom and then locks the door. And I'm like,
so do you make eye contact?
Well, no. But then we're like, "Oh, this is embarrassing." And I'm laughing because, again, I've been backpacking now for 18 months.
Yeah.
I've been staying in dorms. Like, it's my guide for what is normal and not has gone down considerably.
Very low.
You know, it's very low because, again, you're a grubby backpacker. Like, you're sneaking into everything. You're just like, "Oh, it'll be fine." And I haven't been sober for a year and a half. So I'm like, that's hilarious. This is just a funny story.
It's part of it.
And again, my parents were, well, like, my mum is still, they're pretty, like, we just threw jokes around growing up. We were always just having fun. So I don't know if my parents would have taken offense in that situation, but we probably would have laughed at it pretty quickly. Being like, "Oh, this is embarrassing." No. Like, her mum just goes in the room. The girl at the time says, "We're going to go for a long walk." Like, I don't know what we're going to do. And I'm laughing. I'm like, "Come on, we're going to laugh at this sooner or later. Like, it's going to be a funny story." And she's like, No, you don't understand what my parents are like. I'm an only child. You know, we never talked about anything like this. And I'm like, "Okay." And then, of course, again, because I'm a backpacker, I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not flying out for like another 7 days. So what are you going to do? I'm still here for another week."
Yeah.
I'm sitting in this situation. And it was funny because most Scandinavians have unbelievable English, like better English than I have. This is my only option, and it's their second option, and they're grammatically perfect. So English was always fine. We'd be at the dinner table all speaking English. Since that situation happened, they just spoke Norwegian the rest of the time. Like, it's like they ignored me. Like I was a ghost in their house. Like, they're present. Yeah, I would just be going, like, it was like I didn't exist. They just ignored me for 5 days, but I stayed there because
you had another option. You couldn't fly out. You don't have the cash to.
To move my flight would have cost $20. I'm like, "Well, that's $20 I don't have." So I just sat there like a pest for the next week, just going, "Yeah, I know. I've eaten all your food and you know what we've been up to otherwise." That's gross, isn't it? That's gross.
We talk about awkward moments on this podcast a lot. I think that might trump it, to be honest. I think that for a whole week after being caught doing the deed by the mother of all people, you have to sit there at the dinner table and just cop it in a different language.
Don't cut this up and put that out of context on Instagram. I know everyone does this in podcasts. Like, you got to listen to it because everyone will be like, "That guy's horrific."
It's terrible.
What a horrible human being. Look, I'm aware of it. I tried to, what do they say in 2021? I'm now listening and trying to pay attention and be better.
Yeah, that's it. That's a wild one.
It's gross, isn't it?
I don't know if I should tell my story about being, okay. Brendan's nodding his head telling me to tell the story about me in Sweden. There's a guy I met in college. I didn't even really know him. He's a friend of a friend, as you have, and
this is your entire life.
I know
this guy. I went to the other side of the world. He said he was from Collingwood. I was just like, cool.
No one showed up at the airport. I don't know what's going on. And I was in Sweden. I was like, oh, I'll go see this guy. And he was in Finland. So I took the boat over to Finland.
Yep.
I had no cell phone service. So I just show up and no one's there. So I just get off the boat. No one's there to pick me up. I'm just aimlessly in Finland with no idea. And he's in, I think Turku is the place it's called or something like that.
Okay.
He goes, oh, we'll go out to my family's, my family's lake house. Beautiful place, there's like on a lake and there's beautiful trees and it's amazing, quite isolated. And I'm like, whatever, I'll be able to hold my own. So he drives me like 3 hours out of the way in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, getting about an hour out, I was like, this might be the last day of my life. Like, this guy is going to probably murder
I'm going to
me.
wake up in an ice tub with a liver missing.
No doubt. And it was proper middle of nowhere. Like there was like dirt roads to get to this joint and everything. Like there was I had no way of like contacting the outside world. I had no way. And I get there and it's the first day of the World Cup. And they do the opening ceremony. We watch that and stuff. And he goes, in Finland, we do saunas. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, that's a bit freaking weird, but all right. And I'm sure you probably get an idea where this is going. And me being a 23-year-old, I was quite conscious of my body still. And like in Australia, I'll wear Speedos. We would never do that in America. Like you don't show off the body as much as you do here. Everyone here is quite proud.
Well, because
I'm proud of what's going on.
Because America, even though you gained independence, you were colonized by the British like we were. So
Yes.
we've got that British thing of going, no, cover up. And then you get to mainland Europe.
No one cares.
No one cares. They've got
at all.
saunas on the corner of things and families will sit in saunas just being like, here's my bits. And you're like, cool.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Well, I ended up I go into this place. He's like, oh, I'll go get changed. Whatever. I was like, all right, cool. So this sauna is no bigger than maybe like half a meter by half a meter. It is a very, very enclosed sauna. And I walk in, there's like the room.
You needed to get a safety word.
For me, this is me. I was like, cool. Oh, fine, whatever. We'll just go in a sauna. No big deal. There's like this prep room where you put like the towel. And I was like, I'll put my towel up. And I opened the door, and I kid you not, because saunas have 2 stories, right? He's not sitting on the bottom. He's sitting on the second story where it's like head level, and he's got his legs out, spread eagle, and he's got nothing on. Just nothing on. And it's this awkwardness of like, it's only us out here. Like, and he just looks at me and goes, in Finland, we go naked. And I just look back at him, I was like, I'm either going to die tonight or have to get naked in front of this dude and try to act like this is normal. So,
now you've got to rebrand this to the Mason Cox Out show.
Wouldn't be the first time. So anyway, I sat there, took my jocks off, got naked, and essentially my head was right next to his junk for about an hour. And we went and ran down into the lake and back up. And I will say this, it was one of the best feelings in the world, sauna at a cold bath. But I woke up that next morning feeling very refreshed and also very worried that something might have happened in the night that I wasn't sure was going to happen.
Slightly ashamed.
Yeah, slightly ashamed. But we shared a bond ever
Still
since
friends?
that day. Probably Facebook friends. Does that count? I don't know. But haven't talked to him in a few years. But that was a very interesting.
Better than fans only friends, I guess.
Fans only friends. That's very true.
You never know what could happen.
Well, there's no internet out there. I'll give you that. So, but we'll move on from travel, man. I could talk to you about travel forever because I feel like we've both done the Euro trip. But we'll go back into your comedy, mate. Now, obviously, everyone knows you for your comedy, and along the lines of travel, you did the Edinburgh Comedy Festival.
Yes.
How was that?
It's just finished now because it happens in August every year, and it is a lot, mate. It is a lot.
It's a big deal, though.
It is a big deal, and it takes over all of Edinburgh. Like, Edinburgh's a decent old sized city, and it takes over the whole thing for a month. And I'm talking there's shows from 10 a.m. till 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And
bigger than Melbourne, you reckon?
Yeah, because Melbourne's a comedy festival. This is a fringe festival. So there's everything. Like, I know there was a show one year. It was called Man Sits in Gorilla Suit for an Hour and Does Nothing. And people all turned up like, oh, what's going to happen? You're like, yeah, it's a man in a gorilla suit sitting there doing nothing. But the thing is, he had a camera on. This was probably around 2010. He had a camera on the audience because he said it was funny because it was an hour. I don't know the guy.
Yeah.
But I just read about stuff and I saw a bit of the highlighted video footage. They said it was people they'd go a little weird because they're going, oh, this is exactly what it is. And then they would all look at each other going, but we've paid a ticket for this. We don't want to leave.
They paid money for it.
Yeah, because,
well,
I mean, it might only be a couple of quid, but once that happens, it's almost like, well, okay, I want to play this out. I'm invested. And then he said it was really funny because he's watching people because he's not moving a muscle. But then they almost are becoming the show because they're going like, well, This just
What's happening here?
and then you slowly start going, well, I could go up to the monkey, I guess, and
Oh no!
like a mascot. But then you know what I mean. You could just think, oh, I can twirl around him. I could do a lap dance on the monkey. Like
you
know what I mean? Because you're thinking
kind of like what you do whenever outside the royal palace with the people in the red coats and the big furry hats.
Feeders, yeah. Edinburgh was great, but then because there's so many shows on, it's a needle in a haystack thing because you're from the other side of the world. I mean, when I went, I sound like an old man, but this is kind of social media was around, but this does make me sound like an old man. There wasn't Wi-Fi around.
Yeah.
If you wanted the internet, you had to go to a cafe and get the internet from a computer, not just sitting on your phone the whole time. Like we didn't have smartphones really then. And so you kind of had to get the word out and you spend the whole month, you're flying people in the rain the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was there that I received the most pleasant yet most cutting heckle I've ever received.
Really?
Because you do a show, it's an hour-long show, and because too they get audiences from all over. Like they get a lot of people from America. I noticed Canada and America because relatively, I think a fly over the Atlantic, it's a bit of a trek, but it's not that big in the scheme of things compared to say Australians going to the other side of the world. It's what, a 6-hour flight or something like that.
7 hours to go there.
So quite often they know that the Edinburgh Fringe Festival's on. It's summer, so they go, okay, we'll do that, and then a bit of a sojourn through, Finland to do a sauna, and then so you're getting audiences from everywhere, and you just don't know how they're going to react. Like
sometimes your jokes are tailored for certain audiences, right? Like
yes, and also with the accent, because if you say English is your second language, you're used to maybe hearing an English person or an American person speak, and then all of a sudden again, hey, how you going? They're like, I don't know what's happening here, and I'm sitting here for an hour, and this guy's squawking away. So, and I was relatively new to the game, like I was probably 6 years in.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have the tools to know how to adjust or anything. You're just going, well, this is the hour show.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. And so I remember this was 3 nights in a row, I wasn't getting a lot from the audience. Like
3 nights in a row.
And you'll get audiences that are just flat. And there's only so much you can do.
It's got to be the worst feeling though.
Yeah, but I also think to myself, because I mean, it also dictates on weather, dictates what time of the week it is. Because Saturday night, people are like, I'm out, I'm drinking Yahtzee.
Yeah, a few beers and I'm call good.
If it's Wednesday, people are like, I'm having an all right night, but I'm going to go home after this and get my 8 hours sleep. So there's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, okay.
You can only get them moving so far. There might be comedians listening to this going, no, there could be stuff you can do.
Wednesday night's prime night.
You just choose not to. And so the first night, you're like, okay, that was just a flat audience. Second night, you're like, okay, that was weird. That was 2 nights in a row. Yeah. By the third one, you're going, I don't know what's happening anymore. Like,
is it me?
Is it me? Yeah, maybe this is just me. And again, you're every night for a month. Like
for a month, every night for a month.
Every night for a month. So you think, is this just it for the rest of the run? Am I just not going to get a laugh for the next 3 weeks? And then just drive myself into the middle of Siberia and never come back. So in this third night, it's about 20 minutes into an hour show, and there was a couple of people laughing, like they were up the back. There's probably 80 people in the crowd.
Yeah.
There's 3 people who are going rogue, but everyone else is silent. And in that situation, because they're in the dark, you can only see so many people, but every person looked like they were at a funeral.
Blank.
And I'm like, oh man, this isn't going well. So 20 minutes in, I drop a gag. The rogue laughers laugh.
Yeah.
But then once they peter away through the silence, some spokesperson from the rest of the crowd, the silent majority, leans across to those people and goes, shh.
Oh, no.
Like, can you stop laughing?
As if it's like a lecture or something.
Yeah.
Like.
No, we're trying to break this man's hopes and dreams. Could you just be quiet now and let it play out? And I was like, I can't believe, because there was nothing I could say to him. Like, oh, no, they're allowed to laugh.
Yeah.
You people are in the wrong. Yeah. And it was such a, like, it felt like, I don't know where they were from, but it felt like such a British heckle. Like a very proper heckle.
Hoity-toity.
Like, no. The colonial boy is wrong. There is no reason for him to be here. Be quiet.
Oh, jeez.
So
how'd you react to it? Did you just kind of go, just keep going, just keep nose to the grindstone, just keep getting through it?
Well, I did laugh. I laughed, and I think I said something to those words that I just said, and then most of them looked at me and went, yeah. And funnily enough, the next year, I opened with that story because I would be like, the last time I was here, this happened.
Yeah.
And then there was a big laugh, and this guy's like, yeah, that was us. That was us last year. So it was
on purpose, you reckon?
No, the people who laughed.
Oh, yeah.
They'd come back. So I'd won over 3 people and lost 77 of them, which isn't good odds.
but next year,
but they came back, and I was like, "That's actually quite lovely of you."
You have some super fans.
Yeah.
Shout out to those 3 guys out of Edinburgh.
Yeah. Hope you're still hanging on, guys. I've given you every reason not to, but thank you for hanging on. So it was a lot, and I did 2 years straight, and then I was like, I'm done here. Like, as in,
it's a long way to go.
Yeah, and it's a grind. Some people go after it year after year and then really accrue an audience. Like Jamoan, he goes back after every year, and he's really big in Edinburgh. But I just was like, I can't. This is a lot.
Yes, it's very much an effort, especially if you're getting silence from the client for a whole month straight.
Mate, you think you're match hardened, and then it's just something like that that breaks you.
Oh, it would break you up for sure.
But surely you've got stories of I've been lucky enough now to meet guys in, professional sports people. And then when they tell me stories, because sport is there for people to roast. Like in comedy, it's almost like, okay, you want to come up and we're going to go toe to toe if this is what you want. Yeah. Not that I ever encourage it, but it may happen. But in sport, people are like, no. I'm going to spend the entire time shitting on you.
Yeah. If you shit back on them, then they throw a fit.
Well, surely
you can't react too much. Everyone can shit on you, but if you say anything back, then it's like a big deal.
I know. I always found that a bit weird when they. I can't believe people say that. Are you?
Once I retire, chains are off, baby. Come at me on Twitter.
Have you had anyone that have thrown stuff at you that has actually put you off? Like that you've gone. That one actually hit home.
No, I not really. I don't really care because I'm kind of like, this is probably sounds really big headed, but most people are probably sitting there watching me play in the stands. I always wish they could have played AFL, and some dipshit, like American doesn't know what it is out there playing over them. So it's really just a slap in their face, if anything. I will say once, I think we were playing Richmond, and I wasn't having the greatest game, and the Richmond fans actually chanted USA to me. As a bit of like you're playing like shit, mate. And just kind of getting at me. And I was like, fair call. Like you cop it. You also gotta be able to give it. And
fair enough. This isn't my story. And this is Bob Murphy told me this story when he was playing. And I can't remember which injury it was, but it was a significant injury. It might have been the one in the 2016 season. And he was getting stretchered off. And again, this is Bob's story to tell. But I have said it before on radio shows and things, and I've said, Bob, I've told that story. He's like, here you go for it.
Go ahead.
And he said he was getting stretchered off. So you've got thoughts of, is this the end of my career? Will I ever come back? I can't believe this has happened right now. Because I can only imagine for a sports person too, it's like, this. It's not just my career, it's my earnings. Yeah. Like, what will I do after this? And he said he's getting stretchered off. And about a 10-year-old kid leans across and goes, Murphy, you just fucked my super coach. A 10-year-old kid.
Oh.
I was like, how is that? Like a kid eviscerated you for Supercoach.
To hate you that much at 10
really,
years
mate?
old,
I don't know how I'm going to pay for my mortgage. Yeah. I don't know how this is going to work out.
He doesn't even know what a mortgage is at that age.
That's true.
Oh my gosh. That's just like mom and dad teaching the wrong things to that kid.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You really look at the parents in that one and go like, you're the asshole in this situation. It's not really your kid's fault.
But I mean, that's way worse than anything that's been thrown at me. Like,
really?
I think so. I haven't had too many.
I feel like as a comedian, you kind of walk that line sometimes of like offending people. Like I know recently you've talked, you live in I don't know if I can say this. You live in the
no, the inner north. I talk about Brunswick.
The inner north. Yeah. You live in Brunswick, and
in Melbourne,
they're kind of known to be the people take the piss out of, right?
Totally.
And you do it in good faith, you take the piss out of them here and there. And like, have you had anyone that's come up to you and said like, I've been offended by something you've said while you're in comedy?
Mate, it's funny. Online especially.
That's different though. People don't just have the balls to say it to your face, I feel like.
Yeah, online is when people, like I post old stand-up clips on my Instagram, Dave _Thornton.
Yeah, throw it out there. What do you got? Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook.
It's all there, mate.
You might even be Apple Music and Spotify, just like us. Everyone listen in. Anyway.
At all the great places you listen to your podcasts.
Now, what is your username now? Shout it out.
Dave _Thorno.
All right, everyone check it out.
Follow me. But I only put up a clip recently that I did on Rove years ago, and it was just about spelling. Like it's the most innocuous subject you could think of. Yeah, and I just said, English is the hardest language to spell because there's silent letters and there's things like this. And it's amazing. People are like, why don't you try Danish, mate? Why don't you try? And people are roasting me over spelling. You're like, okay, but man, if you look at it, this was 2008. I didn't have the ability to look up Danish to see in what ranking order was the hardest spelling language. But that is a microcosm of what, it's like online.
Yeah.
Where people will take
just
offense
never know what people say.
With everything. The Brunswick thing, I always do say, I'm like, I love it. And that's why I give it shit.
Yeah.
I sometimes have to explain this to people. And again, it's online where people, like even they'll say, you're complaining about your kids. Then why have kids? I'm like, I don't say then I don't love them. It's just that the and maybe it's an Australian thing or whatever, but it's like the closer someone is to you, the more you're probably going to give them shit. That's how I grew up. Like, it's with love that you wind someone up.
Yeah.
But people go, look, you hate it. You're like, that's like, I wouldn't make jokes. When I hate something, I don't find it funny. I hate it.
Yeah. I ignore it almost.
Yeah. It's in the rubbish bin of my mind. I'm like, throw it out because it just frustrates me that much. When I enjoy something or I have fun with it, it's like, that's when I'm winding it up. Like, it's fine to give each other shit. I mean, you're in a football club. I'm very sure none of you are like, great game. Well done, son. Pat on the back.
Well done.
Should we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya? Like, you
kind of do that after the game, though. I always say,
you do.
We hold arms. We do a whimsical tune at the end of the game.
You know, it's funny. I had a Canadian friend.
It
I
just
remember.
makes no sense.
Mate, the whole pomp and ceremony of AFL is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like when I brought a friend from overseas to watch a game, there's so many things where he's like, they're running through tissue paper. And you're like, yeah, man, that's when the gladiatorial battle is about to begin, when they rip through tissue paper. And then you're right at the end. I remember because I'm a Geelong fan. Oh,
Oof.
you win the match. And then there's this ye olde song. And my friend's like, what is happening? And you're like, oh, I don't know, brass band comes out like we're living in the 1920s.
It's the first game I ever went to was a Geelong game. Because a Geelong fan, it was like, we are Geelong, the greatest team of all. And I just looked at my brother, I was like, are these motherfuckers serious? This is the weirdest shit
What is
I've
happening?
ever seen.
Yeah, what is weird?
Oh.
And then Port Adelaide plays In Excess and everyone goes, well, that's weird. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Because it's a modern song.
It's
that hasn't been around for
from 1900.
And you're right. Then they all get around and, you know.
It's the weirdest thing. Between that and the pink runners that run out in the field in the middle of the game, I always found that really weird. But the umpire's suit. I want to bring back the old white trench coats, man. I'm telling you, that would be it.
Like an arts teacher or something.
Yes,
like that.
I've never thought of that. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
They all come across. Yeah, they're wearing the full trench coat, like your teacher in woodwork. Okay, guys, get out the circular saw. Don't forget to wear your goggles. Like, it was very strange. You know, it's funny you said that because I remember being in America and I went to a baseball game.
Oh gosh, there's some weird stuff. Yeah,
I went and saw the Cubbies in Chicago,
Wrigley Field. Yep,
and then. First base coach is hilarious because I'm always like,
signs.
I'm always like, what the fuck is he telling? He's a professional. Like, he goes, hey mate, after first we go to second. And, you know. Sorry, I'm probably getting in your way more than anything. I'm like, you need someone to walk out and explain how a diamond works.
I can only imagine they'd just be talking shit to him. Be like,
surely.
Shit, this guy's trash. He's gonna fucking throw you out here. There's gonna be something surely. But then I don't know if you've seen it. The signs they do. Because the first base coach, what they really do is they show signs to the batter sometimes. Yeah. And they'll be like, they'll do the left, right, up, and then left, right. And then it's like they're doing some kind of weird prayer. I'm not really sure, but that's kind of, I think, what they do. But I can only imagine being a first base coach. You just it's essentially just sitting on the sideline, just talking to people and maybe taking a helmet every once in a while off someone.
Surely.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
But then I thought you were going to say the dot race. Did you have a dot race at Wrigley Field?
No.
They have these like dots, right? So it's colors, and everyone gets a color. They hand out these pieces of paper, and everyone gets a color. And if your dot's the winner, you get like a free
dot, as in a polka dot, a dot,
like a polka dot. Yeah, just a color, and you get like a free Big Mac if your thing wins, right? And they'll have it. Different teams have different things, but they'll have the dot race on the screen. It'll go blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden now, like left field, you have what they'll do is they'll get 3 drunk mates, and they'll be like, "Hey, do you want to be the dots for the day?" And of course, they're all like, hell yes. So you get 3 people put on this like ridiculous outfit, whatever it is.
So they look like an M&M.
Yeah, kind of. Different ones do different things. So I think the Nationals do like different like presidents, like ex-presidents. They put like a president's head on. So it's like big, huge thing, right?
Very Point Break.
Yeah. And you get 3 just drunk idiots, and they're all trying to race to home to see who's going to be the first one. So it's like you can imagine just shoving like left, right, center. Everyone's just shoving each other over, and everyone's cheering for whatever person they got on their little piece of paper.
Racing drunks.
Just for a big back. No one really gives a shit about the outcome, but everyone just wants to see someone get taken out. And it's one of the most entertaining things at baseball.
But that's one of the nice things I always think about slow sports like that, because cricket's the same. And now with cricket, and they have, like, it was obviously tests, and then one days came in, and now it's 2020. But the only thing is, when there was tests, and I've been to a few test matches at MCG on Boxing Day, where because there's more of not doing the thing than doing the thing. Baseball's like one hit and then we all stand around and scratch ourselves. Stupid shit like that happens all the time because people are bored and drunk. Yeah. And they've been there all day. So they're like, duh, and then stupid stuff happens. And you're like, this is way more entertaining
than the actual game itself.
It's proof that if you just don't do a lot and put alcohol in it, It's a lot of fun.
They do like the cup stack so you can get the highest cup stack.
Of course. I remember a guy walking out and he had 4 beers on him and then everyone's like, skull, and he sculls 1, then everyone keeps going, keep going. And then he finishes 4. And then my mate went to the bathroom. This guy's just yakking on the tiles. And you're like, oh, well, his moment of glory. He really had to pay for it. Good stuff.
It's like Bob Hawke. Like, y'all love people sculling stuff. Even like Bob Hawke, the old prime minister, sculled a beer at the cricket and everyone lost their mind. Anthony Albanese recently at a Gang of Youths concert sculled a beer. And it's just, I feel like it's very Australian. Daniel Ricciardo does the skull out of the shoe, the shoey. It's just very Australian.
The tinny draft, that's good stuff.
It's just something y'all love. I don't know.
Yes, I did find that when I went to America. And it could be wrong because...
We shotgun beers. I don't know if you know what a shotgun is.
I know a shotgun, but I always found too in America... Your casual drinking's a lot less than ours. As a rule of thumb, I found.
The casual drinking. It's either go hard or go home, back home.
Well, that's what I always feel like. Like they'd always be like, man, you drink it a lot. And you're like, am I? Like,
am I?
Isn't this fine?
Yeah.
But maybe that was the places I was going to. But I did want to ask you, circling back to the runners, have you ever had that thing where like a runner has come out? Have they always been really serious or do they sometimes just come out and be like, hey, mate, they tell me to come out and say something.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll come out and say something. I'll just look at Pendles and go, you got that, yeah? Just run the other way.
And you keep going.
Tell Pendles, he'll figure it out for everyone else.
So he's your go-between.
He just looks at me and he goes, says something, and I'll look at Pendles, he goes, that means hit to this number. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, got it. Yeah. Pendles runs the show. Pendles just runs the show out there, I'm telling you. He's the main man. But no, they do, there's never like, I feel like at a professional level, like it's always very serious. But if you were at like kind of a local level, like surely you're just having a bit of fun, just going out there roasting players left, right, and center.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that, the whole concept of a runner, like even if you went to VFL level, I'd think there must be guys running out going, got nothing to say to you, but I was just on Tinder and have a look at that. That's pretty good, isn't it? Like surely it's just chatter. Surely.
If you're up by 60, maybe. I'm not really sure how it all works.
True.
You're up by 60. Really anything goes for the runner, I feel like. It's his time to shine.
Actually, that's a good point. If it's over 60, it should be, the lesson is him just coming out and just working. I got a booking tonight at a restaurant. Do you reckon we should be 8 or 10 of us? What do you reckon? I'll put 10 in. We'll see how we go. Like he should just, you spend whatever time is left in the show just organising shit.
Just
for the rest of the day.
He's sorting beers out for after the game, actually. Is probably what he's doing. He's like, booking at this pub, do you think we need 2 kegs or 3?
Yeah, surely.
We'll move on, though. I know you've done a lot of different stuff. You've done radio, which I want to talk to you about. You've done the Fifi, Dave, Fev, and Byron. You've also done, like, The Project, and you've done The Rove, like you said.
Yep.
I feel like The Rove might be a cult, because I feel like every comedian here in Australia has been on Rove Show.
Yeah, well, it was, the closest thing to, like, it was a late-night chat show.
Yeah. So we had Peter Hellier on. He talked about Rove being one of the first original things he started with, and, like, being able to get into comedy from that. And
yeah, man. So it was 1999, I remember they were on air, and Rove for 10 years was like our Dave Letterman. It was our Johnny Carson. It was like the late night thing, and that was the only spot you could do stand-up on.
Yeah.
So all us comedians we were on that, and that was us doing our first ever real stand-up spot.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was a hella funny show. Like, Pete, I was only talking to him about this recently. Like he was 24 or something when Rove goes on, and then becomes like nationally famous. And I'm like, oh man, you've been famous for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Like Pete's been...
It's done a lot.
Yeah, man. Like so much. And so, you think like maybe some kids now, there's probably a generation of kids that maybe didn't grow up on it. But for us, for my age, it was like Rove was, man, he won Logies, mate. People listening overseas, that's big news.
Big news, the Logies.
Big news.
What is that, the Oscars of Australia?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. No one got slapped in these Oscars, did they? Or
maybe in the after party.
Yeah,
probably things would have got a bit loose.
A few loose units in the after party.
The Logies is a place where, not so much anymore, but we used to get Americans over. Like you would find the star that was desperate for cash.
Yes.
And then they would come over. And it was usually one way or the other. They're either on the way up or the way down. Like we would never get someone at the peak of their powers.
Yeah.
You'd get like a Matt LeBlanc who'd...
Joey from Friends.
Friends would have finished 10 years ago and he's turning up going, what has my manager said yes to? And they just couldn't understand what is going on.
Yeah. He's just going, I'm just here for the after party, to be honest. Just give me a script and I'll read it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, he's probably eyeing out the home and away table. Like, what girl's there?
What girl's going to be the next one in the American actress scheme?
Yeah. So
home and away, far out. Yeah. Neighbors no longer.
Oh, R.I.P. I know.
R.I.P. It's only home and away now. That's where all the actresses have to go.
That's the only one left, I think. Dark times in Australian television.
We'll talk about television because you actually were on Bed of Roses and your character Shannon. Shannon was it. I've read it here. It says he was an injured 24-year-old AFL player who found himself in trouble and returned home to the series fictional town of Rainbows Inn and to his mom.
That's it.
Give us a little bit of a backdrop on that.
Mate, it was my first ever kind of really acting. Because I've never studied acting. People are like, oh, you studied acting? I'm like, no. I don't know if you've seen my performances, but no.
You were designing art.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Gordon Institute of TAFE.
Thank you, mate. I was working on Pantone colour swatches.
Gordon Institute's getting a bit of a plug here.
Mate, they'll love it. They will genuinely love it. It's funny. I've been asked to do talks at the Gordon Institute of TAFE. They're like, oh, you went here. Do you want to do a talk? I'm like, you realise I used none of that education to be where I've gotten. Like, that's not a good sell for students.
It's not, yeah.
None of it was worth it. So enjoy. But yes, Bed of Roses, and it's a funny situation because the character was kind of based on Ben Cousins.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And that's
such as life.
Exactly. So yeah, you've got context. So it was like, oh, so just act like you're in some real trouble here. And I'm like, at what level will I method act this? Like, how far am I going?
Did you do some research? Did you just watch?
I mean, there was enough. There was enough research going on. It was at the front page news. So like, yeah, I think I've got it. And it was kind of alarming that people go, you can play the role of someone who the wheels have completely fallen off.
Who do we think of? Dave. Dave will fill this role perfectly.
Looks like a man who's barely got it together. Let's get him on.
He lives in Brunswick. I think he fits the bill.
Yeah. But because I was young and probably taking myself a bit too serious, I then said, yep, I'm going to hack my hair. I'll get bleach blonde tips. I'll look like I was really loose. But then you realize you got to live with that. Like I was at mates' weddings just going there like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
I'm a character. Is the character like an absolute spanner because you look like an idiot? And I was like, oh yeah, I've got to live with this for the rest of my time. Like, I remember I had this small part in a movie with Portia de Rossi. It was an Australian movie, Now Made Honey, put together by Robin Butler and Wayne Hope. And it was great, but they had me on as a cop in this situation. And I was literally a narrative device where the main Portia de Rossi's character was over here in Australia, and then she was caught with a lot of kind of over-the-counter drugs that were legal in America but illegal here in Australia. Yeah. So then she had to stay in Australia. But I was the cop that kind of found her. Remember, Portia de Rossi is like Alan's wife.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like
it's a big deal.
She's a big deal. And of course I'm coming thinking, oh, I'm a cop. Like, you know, I want to act like a cop. And I was even living in St Kilda.
Strike your authority.
Mate, you know it, Mason. And then so I remember going to a cop station in St Kilda. And I remember turning up and we were like, what would a cop do in this situation? The cop's like, what are you talking about? I said, oh, I'm doing this script. Like, this is how serious I took it. And he was like, what? Like, mate, we got bigger fish to fry. Like, we're in St Kilda. I'm trying to get the junkies off the street. And you've come in going, oh, how do I act like a cop? He's like, I don't know, put a suit on and get a badge. I don't care. So I get there and I'm supposed to be dragging her into the station. And so I'm like, because I hate watching movies or TV shows where you'll see the extra or the person that's off to the side and they're not doing their job. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I look for that.
Yeah, in a sports movie, they'll cut to the crowd and it's an extra who's barely gotten off their seat. You're like, mate, this is supposed to be the winning touchdown of the college game that finishes the movie.
That's nothing.
And you look like you're pissed off because you didn't get all the catering you wanted.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I got to commit to this. And so I've got Portia and I'm taking her down the stairs and she just goes, cut, because I'm grabbing her arm and she's like, he's about to throw me down the stairs. And I was like, and like the director and everyone's looking at me, I'm like,
oh shit.
I almost killed Alan's wife. Like that. I should go.
I think I've lost this role.
Yeah. That's when I was looking back through my TAFE credentials to be like, maybe I can fall back on being a graphic designer. Yeah, maybe this isn't for me.
There's a better option.
Yeah. Maybe acting's not good for me because I also then traverse into homicide. So yeah, wasn't great.
Oh gosh. Well, we'll move on into sport, mate. I know you love your basketball. We recently saw each other in the NBA store with Jamal Murray, which was a very interesting experience.
How gross was it? It was a Monday morning and it was just AFL players and comedians. That was it, because we were the only ones with Monday off.
It was a very awkward scenario, I felt like. I don't know why. Maybe you had a different experience, but they kind of like throw you in front of these people and they're like, speak to them. Hang out. And it's like, I played basketball back in the day, and this is Dave. He does comedy. It's like
because you've got no touchstones with each other. You know, you feel like I felt like grabbing Jamal and going, "Hey, I like what you do. I'm not a super fan. Yeah, I just want to let you know, like I like watching you play. I'm not some guy.
I'm not weird.
Yeah, I don't want to cut off some of your hair and sniff it at night. I just want to, just hang for a bit. And this seems kind of cool. Yeah, please don't take me for a weirdo." But then by rights of you saying that, you feel like a weirdo.
You feel weird, yeah. There's nothing that can get you out of that scenario, I feel like, of just being that awkward guy on the side, just going, hey, Jamal, what's up? How you going?
Yeah, and he's going to, well, you realise you can't just have a normal chat like we're having now because I said,
an appearance from.
How's your injury going? Because he had an ACL and he was out for the season. And of course, he doesn't want some schmuck in Australia then getting online and going, I just heard Jamal said he's going to be out for another 6 months. He just goes, day to day, it's fine.
Same old PR.
And I could understand that. And then you all of a sudden, because it's not a conversation, he's not going to go, and how are you and the family?
Yeah.
He's just going, I just want to move through this and get my paycheck.
Yeah.
Which I understand. He was nice. He was lovely.
Oh, he was lovely. Very lovely.
But it was just weird. And, but yeah, I mean, I am, I'm a bit of a tragic when it comes to basketball. Like I love it a bit too much.
What do you mean in that sense?
Well, like anything, like my go-to is just if I'm sitting there and I'm a bit tired on the couch, I just look up YouTube and I'll watch anything related with basketball.
Really?
Like I'll watch horrendous things. I'll watch highlights of Michael Jordan and Len Bias playing Maryland, UNC on YouTube.
Old school.
Yeah, that's old school. Like I just watched a Penny Hardaway Magic Johnson thing on YouTube. Like I follow dudes that you're like, why are you watching this? And I'm like, I don't know. I will just take anything that's basketball related.
Well, what's your favorite team? What's your team?
The Knicks. Yeah, so it sucks. So you can understand why I don't actually like watching games. I just like watching YouTube
replays. It's probably the best idea. Yeah.
But are you a basketball fan? Because I know you grew up kind of playing soccer and then you...
I'm more of a fan of like players in the NBA. I'm fans of people I've had interactions with and dealt in life with. So like I used to play with Marcus Smart, played against Joel Embiid, Andrew Wiggins, people like that.
Yep.
I'm like, I hope they go well because the more they go well, then it's kind of a cool story for me to tell.
Yeah, sure.
And it's kind of like you're somewhat connected. Like, do I have their number or anything like that? No. They don't know who I am. I'm sure they're just like, there's some random dude over in Australia. But it is cool to be like, I'm somewhat... I guess like that was the reason that it got me there playing against those people and being able to play at that high level got me to where I'm at now. So it's kind of a cool story to tell to people.
Yeah.
But I'm from Dallas, so I've got to be a Dallas Mavericks fan.
Oh, so you're from Dallas?
Yeah.
Because
I went to school in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's right. It was engineering or something.
Yeah,
is that right?
Engineering. Yeah. It was almost as good as the design and art from Gordon's Institute of TAFE.
You're getting about as much from it, are you?
Yeah. It's it costs a little bit more than $400, but
I have heard tertiary does cost a bit in America.
It does.
But then, do you have a student loan? Similar situation?
I was fortunate enough to have parents that paid for schooling. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
But you do usually take out loans and stuff, but basketball players, because I played basketball in college, and a lot of the guys that play basketball get their education paid for.
Scholarship.
So they're on scholarship, right?
Sure.
I was never that guy. I never really got that opportunity. Although I played over guys that were on scholarship, which kind of doesn't really make sense in the whole grand scheme of things. But I never got any money for it. So I just showed up every single day and just they flew private jets around the world, like around the country. We flew over to Spain and Europe and did like tournaments over there. And then
did you?
It's all paid for. You get like private escorts to games and the buses and like stay at these really fancy hotels and all the fancy dinners and all that stuff. And
nice.
like I remember I walked into Collingwood and the first time I went there, they're like, "How good is this? This is the greatest facility in all of Australia." And I was like, "It's pretty shit." Comparatively to America.
Did you explain this to Eddie when he was on the pod?
Yeah, I didn't really want to say it to him. But Eddie's no longer there, so I can say whatever I want. But yeah, I wasn't thoroughly impressed. It was impressive in a sense of like, it's a professional environment, the people there and all the different weights and all that kind of stuff. But if I were comparing it to what I had back in university and some of the football stuff and basketball stuff that was there, it didn't probably stack up.
Gordon Institute of TAFE was the same, mate. Yeah. It was just private shuttles everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere you want.
Yeah. Guys, to be honest, I don't feel like lobster for lunch today. Have we got anything else on the menu?
Prime rib.
Anything
you could possibly do.
What's Oklahoma like? Because all I know is Oklahoma City Thunder. I have no other reference points. I think tornadoes rip through there. Is that right? Tornado
Alley. We talk about it on the podcast all the time, Tornado Alley. And Braden always says, "Why the hell would you ever live in Tornado Alley?" And that's literally where I spent my whole life. So, bar being in Australia. Oklahoma is just flat plains. Whole state, flat plains. And then there's Oklahoma City. There's Norman south there, and then there's Stillwater where I went to university. It's about an hour away. So you have the university towns, which are awesome. because like university towns, you got tailgating, it's like the whole college experience, everything else, which I try to touch on, but try not to touch on it too much because I might get in trouble while I'm still playing. But there's all that kind of stuff that happens, and then like Oklahoma City is kind of like this city that's kind of close to it. Not a massive per se city in the country.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot of oil and gas industries there and everything else. But the team is there, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've got Josh Giddey, who's obviously Australian, and there's a bit of a connection.
12-gallon cowboy hats, that kind of stuff. Is it?
Yeah.
Like real cowboys?
Oh, yeah.
Genuine?
Yeah. Like two-stepping, like little honky-tonks at school and stuff, man. The whole thing. Yeah, you had to learn how to two-step in college.
Wait,
had to learn.
What's two-step? Is it like...
It's a type of dance.
But is it
square dancing?
Square dancing.
It's kind of like that, but different.
We
twirl the girls and stuff and all that.
We got the nut bush, mate. We get it.
We got the nut bush. Hey, I recently saw there was like the world's largest nut bush like gathering in Australia like a year ago, I want to say, in the middle of nowhere. We'll have to look it up recently. But I didn't know what the nut bush was until then. And then I saw like 2,000 people doing it at the same time. And I was like, this must be a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, because I only found out that the nut bush is really Australian.
I never heard of it. Yeah.
No, that's what
Can you do the nut bush?
No, because I find it's the communism of dancing. I'm like, we're all doing the same, are we? I can't even cut a rug on my own. No, I'm freestyling. I'm not doing this.
I'm not freestyling.
Yeah.
The nut bush. I wonder where that whole name comes from.
Well, nut bush city limits.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it all comes.
Oh, okay,
but that's why, because it's an old Tina Turner and Ike song. That's why I thought, well, it's from America. It's like, no, we just somehow
created a
dance for I think Australian men who don't have rhythm, where they're like, just follow suit like this, and this is your peacocking rather than standing in the corner, getting yourself extremely drunk and slurring your way to a woman at about midnight.
That's me. That is me 101. Okay. If I try to dance,
and you're still single.
I'm actually who would have thought? I'll try to dance. It's really a hazard. The elbows, are just like head height.
Yeah.
Copped a few in the head. Some of the girls are walking past.
I could imagine.
It's never the greatest intro, I'll tell you that.
Talking about the division between Americans and Australians.
Yeah.
I got a good friend of mine, Monty Franklin, who I started doing stand-up with, and he now lives in LA. Yeah. And he's a great stand-up, Monty. And he was telling me a story where, and you would have found this out when you came across here, is that in America, you don't do hip hip hooray at the end of Happy Birthday, do you?
No. You guys go on a whole you guys go on a whole you go longer after the actual song talking trash and whatever it is. Yeah, there's the extension of the Happy Birthday is actually longer than the Happy Birthday song here.
Well, it's Happy Birthday until you get to the end, and I always say, because I've got young kids, that when you're at a kids party too, I'm looking at the parents going, you've got to hip hip hooray. This is your job now. Like, you don't want a stranger going, well, I guess I'm leading the parade. Hip hip. And then everyone goes, hooray. Right, and we do that 3 times. And then if you want to, where was he born so beautiful? And there's just you're right, it just keeps
going.
Yeah, it's like we can't say goodbye to each other.
No.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Yes, no, yeah. Like, we keep doing that. But my mate learnt the hard way because he said he was in America.
Oh, no.
They're all doing Happy Birthday. And he said with confidence, he's gone, hip hip. And everyone's gone, what did you just say? Because when you have it in isolation, what is hip hip? Like, it's not, you realize it's a rally call, but if no one responds to the rally, you've just said something out loud, just 2 syllables. Hip, hip.
At the prime moment of the end of the song where everyone goes quiet, you just decide it's my time to shine.
Yeah.
Hip, hip.
And he learnt the worst way possible. No, everyone's like, what did you just have? What happened?
Oh my gosh, that would be degrading. Almost like they're spending 30 minutes with no one applauding or laughing at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Immigration, you need to go. You need to take him out.
I just actually got citizenship, so no chance anymore.
You have?
Yeah, official Aussie.
When did this happen?
This happened 4 or 5 months ago, I want to say.
Did you get a little gum tree? I heard you.
I did. I got a little gum tree and it died within a week.
I'm in now, you idiots.
I watered it and it just was like too much. You can't take it out once you water it. So I was like, I'm stuffed.
I hear you got to treat them and keep them keen, gum trees. They only want so much water.
Yeah, no.
Was there anything else you needed to research to become an Australian? Like, do they still have the citizen test?
Yeah, there's the test, man. And it's actually quite easy. But it's I think most Australians would probably fail it. Because a lot of Australians don't really care for patriotism per se here.
No.
It's a very big thing in America. But in Australia, it's kind of like, whatever, mate. Like, green and gold, hip hip hooray. all that jazz.
It is, isn't it? We all have this little bit of, it's like when I explain to foreigners where they say, oh, what's a bogan? And Americans usually say, oh, it's a redneck.
Redneck, yep.
But you go, yeah, but it's not, because in the fact that redneck seems like a slight, like a flat out, if you said to someone, well, you're a redneck, they'd be like, whoa, what did you just call me? When Australia, we have that thing of where someone goes, you're a bit of a bogan, and guaranteed everyone goes, yeah, bit of a bogan. Bit of a bogan.
They actually accept it. They're like kind of proud of it. Like,
yeah, we're a bit shit.
Yeah.
Like we all have that thing of like, it's a badge of honor to be a bit shit. And we all go, yeah, that's
you like to
pretty good.
hang shit on each other is the thing.
Totally.
Aussies just talk trash about each other. I came here and I was like literally blown away. I was like, these people are freaking assholes to
each other.
everyone.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sign of endearment.
Totally. I used to follow a group on Facebook that was subtle bogan traits, and it genuinely made me laugh. Usually Facebook groups, you're like, this is not good. And people put up memes and they're a bit shit. But this one was just little things that you notice that we all do and you go, yeah, that's very funny. Like things like having the fridge door open. No one's ever not sworn at when the fridge door starts beeping at you. You know, it's like it starts going beep and you're like, get the fucking shut up. And then the one that really made me laugh, and this is a very subtle Australian trait, and I reckon I could say 100% of people do this in Australia, when you say, what can you do? But realistically, there's heaps you can do. You know, we always come to a conclusion of like, what can you do?
Yeah.
You know, probably heaps.
They're probably heaps.
But we all just come to that conclusion like, nah.
Yeah. So the thing
PM's a bit shit. Yeah, what are you going to do? We'll vote him out. Like there's heaps you could do, but we just go,
but we're just like, nah. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I always thought that was the weirdest thing. I was like, oh, okay, so yes or no? No or yes? I don't get it.
You know, the closest thing I've noticed is that when I did travel to Sri Lanka, this has come back on the pod, we've come full circle, is that, and anyone from the subcontinent, have you traveled over there to India? Or
I haven't done India or Sri Lanka yet. No. It's on my list.
I really have to laugh because my partner said, oh yeah, you haven't seen this before. And everyone I talk to, like Dilruk Jayasinghe, who's a great comedian, when I said to him, I'm like, how is that reaction? Because there's a non-committal, like a head nod that people will give you that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Like quite often I was in Sri Lanka and I was like, oh, so I need to get to this other town. Is it easier? Is probably train quicker? And they'll just go, yeah. And it's like this head, like it's not a nod. It's not a shake of the head. It's just a movement of a head where you go, that wasn't an answer.
Yeah, what
did you just say to me? And they're just like, yeah, I just answered you to make sure that you got an answer. It's non-committal either way. And I was like, oh, this is yeah, nah.
It's the Australian word of nah version, yes.
Let's go, nah. And then just trail
You'll
off.
figure it out.
Yeah. And if it goes tits up, I didn't give you that advice.
No, exactly. You'll be like, you'll never find me again.
Yeah. And if it does work out, you'll be like, oh yeah, that guy kind of encouraged me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's a really nice fella. I just don't really speak the language, but I think he was saying, go on the train. Go on the train.
It's just a non-commitment either way.
Oh, gosh, that's so good, man. We'll wrap it up on that, man. Well, before we do that, I want to ask you the charity. I know you're part of the big umbrella. You talked about Beyond Blue.
Yes.
Some of the work you've done there. We love shouting out charities on the podcast, so tell us some of the work you've done.
The big umbrella, TBU, they're great. You can look them up online. That they rescue food. So there's a lot of food wastage from, be it bakeries, supermarkets, whatever, and they rescue food, cook it up, and then they give it to people living rough.
Yeah.
So I started doing work with them during the lockdowns and pandemic, and they do amazing work, and it's so great delivering food to people who are living rough. And this is like sometimes the only hot meal that they've got
100%.
For the week. And it is amazing when you think the amount of wastage that we do have, but it doesn't take relatively a lot of effort to cook all that stuff up and then deliver it to people. And there's like, I realized during that, like food is just the international handshake for everyone.
Yes, it's so true.
If you're giving someone food, they're not going to be like, oh, what's this about?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, thank you. This is really lovely.
Very appreciative.
Yeah. And it's just, and you think it's effort because it's, that's all it is. Like it's not relatively costing anything because this is food that people didn't want. So
it's so true because I feel like whenever you go to a supermarket, everything there is perfect. You realize like whenever you go to a farm, not everything's perfect.
No.
So only the best of the best makes it to the supermarket where there's so much that's kind of wasted that you can actually use on a different thing. So it's cool to see places like that doing it.
Yeah, and they get a lot of corporate people coming in, and so the corporate teams will help out. And every time that people finish, they say, "Oh, this was so much fun." Because also opposed to like white collar work, which a lot of us do now, we're on laptops doing all the work.
Yeah,
is that it's physical, it's just manual labor, it's grunt work, and it's quite nice because you start. And then you do it, and then you finish.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's not like an office job where you go, I'll just leave now, and I'll come back to where I left it yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You feel like you've physically done something
physically. Yeah.
Yeah, and the people are really grateful for it. So check it out, The Big Umbrella.
That's the thing. I think you probably come out of there feeling better, doing something for someone else. It's that cliche, like you feel better for doing something positive for someone else, not necessarily for yourself.
Admittedly, though, my partner, I can't really cook. And she's like, wait, did
you take cooking lessons? Is that your cooking lessons? Is going there?
Well, people tell me what to do. Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't have that. Like, quite often there will be chefs that also volunteer. And so they'll get in there and go, there needs a bit of salt. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. Because I'm very bad at it. So she's like, wait, you can't cook for us, but you can cook for them? I don't know. We all have our strengths.
Yeah, we all have our strengths. We all do our own things. Oh, man. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on, mate. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks,
so good stories. I love the travel stories. They're awesome. I feel like we need to riff on this a bit more. But honestly, thanks so much for coming on, mate. I want to shout out the 7 platforms. So we got Apple, Spotify, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Check us all out and check out Dave on his platforms. And what is your username?
Dave_Thorno. So get that on the Instagram. You get that on... I said the Instagram. Which makes you sound like an old man. TikTok, all that.
The meta.
Yeah, the metaverse. Yeah, just get onto it there for all stand-up content and any touring details that I have.
Beautiful. Well, too easy. Thanks so much for coming on, and hopefully we get to catch up again soon.